Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Shannon. This is Made by Boo and I am filming at not my normal time today, but from my normal place a little bit outside of Boise, Idaho. Most of the time I do tend to film on Sunday, like partway through the day, and then video comes out on Tuesday. This weekend is actually my youngest child's birthday, so it seemed a little bit easier to film early instead of leaving it until the last minute on the weekend. So instead, I am filming on Friday night. Based on the projects I have, I don't think it's really going to be that big of a difference. I have 0 finished objects. I might have had one if I waited until Sunday to film, but most likely I would just have a little bit more progress done on the 3 works in progress I have. So let me go ahead and dive right in with the project on top. So this yarn is from Muse 2320. It is the color Muddy Waters, and it is a sock set from the 2023 Troop 2320 subscription set. It's a lot of numbers and there's just similar enough it throws me off, but these were yarns for the entire year that was based off of locations and themes of the Mississippi River. So these are a vanilla pair of socks, but what is special about these socks, I am making them in tandem, not like they are on separate needles, but these socks are for my husband. I think I had made him 1 pair of socks ever, and then last year, winter came around and he mentioned that he may want a pair of hand knit socks to go with his boots for the winter. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I can do that. This is how far I am on them. When I filmed a couple weeks ago, I had the cuffs and I think maybe 10 rounds on each sock. This sock is almost to the toe, and then this one I have finished the heel flap and gusset and am on the foot. So there's a chance this one might have been finished if I had just kind of waited a couple of days, but most of the time when I work on socks, they are a travel project. And I had a few days that I wanted to work on these that I didn't work on them for a variety of reasons. When I say they are a travel project, that usually means I am keeping them in my car, and I usually arrive down at my work area early and I will knit for a little while I'm sitting there, and then I will also knit when I go to my daughter's gymnastics class, and I will bring those along. And then occasionally if I'm at work doing a lot of like video trainings, I might knit while I'm doing that, but that one is rare. But I did have a few times where I had to either start work early or I was not going down to my normal work location, and therefore I was not getting my normal knitting time in the morning. Otherwise, these ones might have been finished by now. I do want to finish them soon, partially so that they're done. We're so close to the end, I really want to finish them. And I really thought I'd finish them before filming this week, but again, if I waited to film until Sunday, I probably still wouldn't have finished them. And then I'm hoping to have enough yarn left over so that I can make a matching pair of socks for my youngest child. But I'm also trying to get these out of the way for some of my October knits that I will get into a little bit more in a minute. So the matching pair of socks for my child may actually wait just a little bit instead of being done directly after like they normally would be. Sorry, I do normally take little breaks in the filming just because of my camera, but I did have to take an extra one right there because instantly after I started filming, in comes the dog trying to enter the room with me and just scratching at the door. So hopefully she'll settle in now that we are in the room together and she can see what I'm doing and why I'm talking. The next project I did also have last time. Sorry, the label was right next to the microphone. This is using Cascade Heritage yarns. This is probably one of my favorite nice but not too expensive yarns. It does end up so soft after blocking. Oh, I did not. Do I have one? trying to be so quiet and careful next to the microphone, but I forgot to put a stitch marker in on my live stitch. This is a crochet project, so whenever I have a crochet project not actively going, I do try to have a stitch marker on my live loop to make it less likely that I will accidentally unravel it. So this is a shawl. I'm not really following a specific pattern or anything. I looked up a couple of granny triangle shawl patterns and tutorials and just kind of adapted it to what worked for me, because I know how to do a granny cluster. I know how to do granny squares. Usually when I do anything like that, I just kind of have to remind myself, like, okay, you do know how to do this, but how do you do this? So I did that for like the first round, and then I've just kind of been going from there. So this is actually a shawl that is going to be for my mother. When she visited a little while ago, she just got a little chilly in the evening and borrowed one of my shawls, and it happened to be using Cascade Heritage for a big part of it, and she talked about how soft it was, and it was just so nice and cozy to drape over her shoulders while sitting there. So naturally, when I had all of these greens that I know my mother would love, I figured that would put them to good use. So somewhere in here is my stitch marker. You're probably already seeing it while I'm not. Here it is. So this gold dragon, it's on theme because my mother loves dragons, is where I was 2 weeks ago. And it feels like I should be a lot farther, but this is almost 100 grams of yarn right here. And with this one, I meant to grab my scale and weigh this. I'll have to do that in a little bit. This is all I have left of that color with a 100-gram ball. So this green, I did not use all of it. I probably used about half of it and then figured it was getting big. It was going to be a lot of that. This was a 20-gram mini. And then I did almost all of this one. I think I left out maybe 5 grams or so. And that's probably going to be about the same on this one. It's not really to end correctly on the sides. It was just, I don't know, it just seemed right. And then after this dark green, let me see if I can hold all this up. There's going to be a little bit of this. This was a scrap from an Agatha Christie advent calendar. And then another bit of Cascade Heritage. And then the last part, I'm only kind of 50-50 on this. We'll see if I think it needs it, but it might just get that little border of yellow, but I might leave that off because at that point it's going to be nice and big and cozy. Now, it has been a minute since I have tried to see how this is sized. I am so going to get tangled in this yarn. So this is, I definitely want it bigger than this. It looks so big when you hold it up like that, but my mother is a smaller woman than I am. But I want it to kind of go down over her arms so that she could really cozy up in it when she is reading her books or watching a show or just any of those little things, sitting and checking her emails, like whatever she wants to do, just sitting down. I want it to go down far enough to kind of cover her arms. I mean, if she wants to just nap in her chair in it, I want it to be a nice little... not even a little, but a sizable shawl that she could really cozy up in. With the granny clusters, it's going to have like that little bit of squish and plush to it that'll help keep it warm. But of course, because I'm doing granny clusters versus other things, it does also have the big holes in it, so it'll be breathable. And I'm liking how it's turning out. I keep looking at it and thinking, oh my goodness, it's almost too big. There's no way I need all that yarn. And then I try it on and I'm like, oh, no, it's not big enough. So we're going to keep going until it is big enough to be super, super cozy for her. And then it's not really like for Christmas or anything. I'm just going to send it off to her when it's done because that's just what I feel like doing. So yeah, that is all I have to say on that one. It's not really a pattern. I just kind of looked up a couple of granny shawls and granny triangles and things like that to kind of remember how to start and just kind of did my own thing from there. The last project I have is kind of my Dopamine project. Last time I filmed, I did talk about how I had like two or three different things that I was considering as my next project. So I usually tend to have 3 projects that I'm actively working on. My travel project, which is usually socks, sometimes a hat. It's usually very small. I have taken sweaters and things like that in the past, but as they are usually things that I'm working on in the car or in my daughter's gymnastics class, things like that, they need to be mobile enough for me to feel like I can fit them wherever I am. And a gigantic project flipping around a steering wheel while I sit in my car waiting to go into the building at work just doesn't make sense to me. Then I usually have an upstairs project and a downstairs project. So I had my socks, I had this shawl, and I was debating which one to do for my other project. Sorry, I got distracted again when I realized you could probably see what I picked. I had a couple of options, and this was actually the one that I thought was the least practical. It is not on my bingo card. It is not prioritizing yarn that was from Stash. This is yarn that I actually just recently got. The only thing about it that was practical at all is the fact that it is a sweater, and we are now mid to end September. And so pretty soon it is going to be sweater weather. So starting it now, as it keeps getting chillier, it will get a lot of use. But it just wasn't the should project, it was the I want to project. And with it being an I want to project, I'm decently far. 2 weeks ago, I had not cast on at all. And now I have the start of the body and most of a sleeve. I was hoping to have the first sleeve done and the second sleeve cast on before filming. But again, I'm filming like a day and a half earlier than usual. So I'll probably finish this sleeve this weekend pretty easily. It'll probably be even what maybe it'll be what I work on while editing. I might work on those socks. It does not matter. But I'm going to keep working on it. So this is with yarn from the Little Wolf Knits. This up here is her 420 base, so that's a DK weight, and it is in the color Skinny Dipping. And then this is her Schooner base. It's the color Strata. And it is her DK weight boucle yarn. So these are both, I believe. This one definitely is. This one might be from her Summer Vacation Italia collection. I believe it is still available. I'm hoping it's still available because I've been debating ordering at least one more color from it. I've been putting it off just because, I mean, hand-dyed yarn is not inexpensive. And if I'm ordering another set, it would be to make another sweater, and I don't technically need to do that, and I don't have time to do another sweater, but I do really like the colorway, and because it is a limited color run, I kind of have to make that decision to order it before she stops selling it. I have not watched her episode from this week, so I'm not 100% sure when the last day of it is, but by the time this comes out, it will be a week behind. So hopefully you also follow the Little Wolf Knits if you are interested in her colorways. This is also her sweater pattern. This is the Second Avenue sweater. I'm so in love with it so far. I have a little Triceratops purple dinosaur stitch marker on it just because it made me happy. It wasn't even started last week, so this was just mostly marking, I believe it was marking where I was one day. I cannot remember why I marked it. And it will move to mark where I was when we filmed. The only issue I'm having at all with this is the other reason I've been hesitating ordering more yarn to potentially make another sweater like this, is I am constantly worried I'm going to run out of yarn. I don't do that all the time, but I usually overbuy. So when I was calculating out how much of this boucle yarn to buy, I had already had the pattern, I looked at everything, and then I ordered the amount of yarn I needed, which was 3 skeins of the Schooner and 1 of the 420 base. And then I was getting ready to actually cast on my normal size. I looked at it, and she did recommend a little more ease for this pattern, and I was decided to size up one to make it just a little bit cozier for the winter. And when I looked at the yarn yardage, the one that I would normally make was something like 660, 680, something like that yards. And the size up that I went with was 726 yards, I believe it was. And I have 720 yards of this boucle. So it's one of those where it's 6 yards short. I would not want to have almost an entire another skein of this boucle just to get that extra 6 yards. But it does have me kind of wondering if I choose to make this sweater in the other color in the boucle yarn again, or even not in the boucle but doing a different her DK weight for the whole thing. Would I want 3 or 4 skeins? Because I'm looking at, like, for the full length, I will use all of my yarn and not be able to go any longer. But I do not normally. So you remember how I said I usually have to take breaks because of my camera? I do not yet know where exactly it cut me off, but I will just kind of reiterate because I'm assuming it cut off part of this. Long story short, with that sweater, I'm a little nervous about if I'm going to have it as long as I want to be. So if I choose to buy more yarn to make another similar sweater, I want to know if I need 3 or 4 to get it a length I want. So I'm still so excited about it. It's got me kind of trying to do the zoomies with that sweater because I really want to know how it's going to turn out. But I also, I want to do so many things right now. I ran across a sweater pattern that I am 100% not going to do. I do not have the yarn for it right now. It is color work. I did purchase the pattern, but I'm not going to try to do it. It's for a really great yoke sweater with ghosts on it. If you cannot tell from the name, ghosts are a little bit of my thing. 2 things that I can never get enough of is ghosts and Frankenstein's monster. So I want to make that sweater, but I'm not going to make it now. I have the other things on my bingo card I want to work on. I have so many things I want to work on. So there's that part of me that wants to zoom through all of them so that I can get to the next one, but I also do want to enjoy what I'm working on now. And that does kind of lead me into the next little bit, which is kind of a semi-combination of life stuff and future planning. So life stuff, I don't actually have a ton. Last weekend, we were somewhat chill. I spent a little bit of time working in my garden. My tomatoes did this year, but all of the things that I had planted in my garden for the summer had already started to die off. So I pulled them all up and started prepping for a winter garden. I don't normally do a winter garden, but I've been meaning to do one for years, and then I don't get around to it. And so I have some little standing boxes that are on my back patio that I'm going to do some carrots and garlic in, and then I have some slightly raised beds. They're not, like, the ones on my patio are like the waist high raised beds. The other ones are cedar beds from like 5 years ago that I desperately need to replace this upcoming year, but that is spring Shannon's problem. That is not fall Shannon's problem. But one of those I am going to also plant some onions in. Just with that, onions and garlic are things that I absolutely love. I'd also have a couple of containers that I'd kind of like to try to grow some potatoes in, but I don't know if I'm going to get those planted. I do live in Idaho, so potatoes are not a hard to find item, but at the same time, like, I kind of like the idea of growing my own as well. So we'll just kind of see what I get around to growing right now and what is available to me this year. So that was a lot of last weekend. I did also make some brown butter snickerdoodle cookies, which I ate way more than I probably should have, but I've been wanting them for weeks. I can't eat gluten, and so when I want... There's just not a lot of gluten-free bakeries around where I am. I know there's some areas where there are, and there's some places where I can go and get like these really good gluten-free donuts. but it's like a 30-minute drive, so I don't really want to get up first thing in the morning and drive that far to get a donut most of the time. And there's not a ton of bakeries that do gluten-free stuff in my area, and a lot of times when they do, it is a regular bakery, and then they get the frozen gluten-free stuff in, and it's basically the same stuff I could get from the freezer section of my grocery store. So when I really want something like a snickerdoodle, it's a little more work. It's usually worth it, but it also means I usually want it for a long time before I actually get around to making it. I did start baking a cake, a birthday cake for my daughter tonight. She informed me 2 days ago that she wanted one of those unicorn head cakes where it's got, it's just a layer cake with the little ears and the horn and the eyelashes, and I am not a cake decorator. I don't have fondant. I don't particularly like fondant. So I don't really have what I need to make it, but I baked a confetti cake tonight, and we are going to see if we can make it happen. This will probably be edited before any of that goes up, but we'll see if I am on top of it enough to actually film any of it, and I may do a short just kind of showing you how it turned out. And then, yeah, we'll be celebrating her birthday this weekend, and then I will probably be working a little bit more in my garden and working on my projects. Long-term plans is a little bit more of a story, and I just know my camera's going to cut me off again, so let me go ahead and get that ready for me to get into it before I get into it. Okay, I don't want my tea to get cold, so I'm going to go ahead and take a few sips here and there, but I'm talking a lot. It's been the end of a long week, a long 2 weeks. I'm going to enjoy my tea while it's still warm, and then we'll also talk a little bit about my plans for like the next 2 to 3 months. When I say 2 to 3 months, it is definitely 3, but it is a little bit more broadly. Right now, I'm trying to focus on between now and the end of October. So I did pretty much decide that I am going to do a Vlogtober, but I'm trying to plan what I'm going to do for it. So if you were here last year for, oh my gosh, I'm totally forgetting what we normally call it when you vlog every day in December. Vlogmas. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that totally, I was so focused on Vlogtober, I completely forgot what the next one was. Wow, such a great start for doing all of this. Anyways, when I did Vlogmas, I don't really vlog as much as I did a little bit of talking about my Advents. If you're new here, I work as a board-certified behavior analyst. I work in ABA therapy. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. I vaguely mention it every now and then. This channel is not about that. But the long and the short of it is I work in a healthcare field, so I fall under HIPAA. I can do like zero filming inside the building. I could kind of get away with sitting at my desk and filming a coffee cup or something, but if literally any paperwork gets caught in it, it's a big deal. So I'm not vlogging my work days. My husband and kids don't really participate in any vlogging with me. So I'm not like just vlogging, hanging out, and chatting with them. And I mean, I have a decently busy work schedule. I know I'm certainly not the only one that does. But it just feels like there's so much of my life that I can't vlog. And then the other parts of it don't always feel fun. So some of those things, I know the vlog part of my Vlogmas was very limited. And so when I decided I'm getting the Beetlejuice Advent from Little Wolf Knits. If you can't tell, I've been on a little bit of a Little Wolf Knits kick this year. I've done a couple of patterns, some yarn from her. Really enjoying her patterns and her colorways this year. But I'm getting her Beetlejuice Advent Calendar, and I decided I have that. I have A couple of other things. I love Halloween. October is when my birthday is. I am going to do Vlogtober, at the very least to kind of share as I open my advent calendar. But I don't want it to just be opening one singular advent calendar and that is all you see of my day. So I am trying to plan a few other projects that are specific to, I want to complete them in October. I will not be doing an advent project. I'm 99% sure what I'm going to be doing with the Beetlejuice advent calendar. My current plan is to do a reading shawl with it, which, if I remember correctly, you're holding the advent double with another yarn, and I am going to wait and see what it looks like and then pick the other color yarn. I do tend to open my advent yarns during advent seasons, but I don't try to do a project with them then. I know my own capacity, and I would not complete 31 colors of yarn in that 31 days while still doing literally anything else. So I do have a couple of other things that I was also planning on working on. And one of them, which, as I just briefly mentioned, is my birthday is in October. For the past 2 years, I happen to have a yarn that was at least semi-themed, something to do with my birthday or when I was born, even more specifically, and made myself a pair of socks with them. So 2 years ago, it was self-striping socks that were themed Libra. And then last year, I had a hank of yarn that was named October. And so I made myself a pair of socks using the October yarn. Well, this year, I went to Idaho Fiber Festival, and I found this yarn. It is all caked up and ready to go. It is from Phat Fiber LLC, or Phat Girlz Fiber LLC, and it is the color Born in the 80s, which I was born in 1982, so again, has to do with when I was born. Seemed appropriate to make myself a pair of socks again this year in my birthday month. I don't know how many years I can continue to find yarns themed on something to do with the time of my birth, but this is now going to be 3 years in a row, so it almost feels like I have to keep trying the next couple of years, but we will see. So these would be just a basic vanilla sock, and the basic plan is that I will probably start these directly after finishing the socks that I'm making for my husband. My birthday is partway through the month, so I feel like starting them and seeing if they can be done by my birthday makes a level of sense. But if I don't finish them by my birthday, that's also fine. So these are probably just going to be vanilla socks because that is what I like to do and makes a really great mobile project. So the other thing I am looking at doing, and this, I had 2 options here, and I'm pretty sure I know which one I'm going to do. This one is from Cashmere Coconuts, and this is actually the set from last year. I believe she did a set as well this year. I found it on Etsy, and it is the Frankenstein sock kit. That should not be in there. So this is just a box of a bunch of different colored yarns. My set happens to be the sparkle base, and the idea is that you're doing stripy socks. And I did think about doing something very similar to Advent socks that I have purchased previously. The last couple of years I have purchased the self-striping Advent socks. I've gotten the Cozy Knitter socks for 2 years in a row, and last year I also got the Woolens and Nosh, which I have also ordered both of those this year. My Woolens and Nosh set is already here, and it is so tempting to look at it already, but I have not yet. So I thought about doing that, and because they are Frankenstein themed, I had kind of some ideas, including each of the 31 days, or maybe doing it as a 30-day and trying to have them done on Halloween, whatever. But for each of the days, pick one for one sock, one for the next sock, so that they are completely mismatched. That was one option, but the option I'm actually leaning towards doing, because I do not want the inability to work on anything else throughout all of October, is the Hypnotic Yarns Haunted Hues Monster Mash set. So there's more than just the yarn in here. If you have ordered this and have not opened yours yet, you may want to look away. I'm not necessarily showing everything, but so this set did have a few things that were in here just for funsies. Some of it is already gone because it did have like a Notions pouch that my daughter took. But there's also a tea light holder and a mug. And I really just need to take these out and put them somewhere else. Then there is, of course, some stitch markers, which are super cute. And these nice bright yarns that are black light reflective. I have not really looked at what all the color names are. I can kind of see them through here yet. But, so this is 5 mini skeins there. If you were looking away, you can look back. It is put away again. So this is the Haunted Hues Monster Mash set. And it will be 4 weekly clues to make a specific pattern sock. And the first clue will come out on the 27th, so on that Saturday, and it should just be for the cuff. They did already release like the breakdown so you could get the correct needles and be prepared for how it's going to go. So I'm kind of leaning towards doing that as one of my other October projects, because then I could kind of work on it a little bit more on the weekend and not have to worry about it day to day. And then maybe keep those Frankenstein socks for another time. I have been putting off making those for a year, which is part of why I originally thought I would do them during Vlogtober, but I had forgotten I had ordered this Monster Mash make-along kit. And I really just don't want my October to just be 3 pairs of socks. I'd like to keep working on some of the other projects that I have already been working on. And I do still have my bingo card to think of as well. So I'm kind of leaning towards my Born in the 80s and my Monster Mash socks. And I'm not sure when that leaves the Frankenstein socks. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up going crazy and attempting to do all 3 of them. But that is kind of like my semi-October for Vlogtober. And then, of course, maybe doing a little bit of time in my garden. We'll see how much of it I get done before October starts. We've done pumpkin patches out here in the past. Again, my husband and kids don't really participate, so it won't be like long, extensive conversations with them. But I do still plan on taking you guys along with me on all of that other stuff. When I did Vlogmas previously, I did still continue to do these normal podcasts. I'm not sure if I will continue to do that during October and then later December of this year. We'll see how much of my other knitting I talk about on a day-to-day basis. Because if I'm telling you about my sweater every single day, I'm not sure we need another separate half hour in the middle of the month to talk about it. So that is a little bit of my October plans. And then I am trying to kind of plan ahead. I do have a few advent calendars that I will be getting in December as well. And so I am planning on also doing Vlogmas then. Probably similar to what I'll be doing for Vlogtober, where it'll really just be a lot more videos, but not full-on vlogs. Ooh, sorry, moving all that yarn around. I think something... It's always fiber in the air in this house. And I might try to pick some sort of a project to focus on other than that as well. But, I mean, in December, I will have 2 pairs of Advent socks and also my Advent calendars. And then just trying to make sure I actually have time to, be present with my family. I am fortunate enough to have all of my kids in the house with me in the holidays still. So it's nice to be able to enjoy that. But I do also enjoy sharing what I am getting in my Advents and what I am making with all of you. So I really want to make sure I'm balancing that. And I also, of course, want to make sure that I'm careful about my children's privacy and my husband's privacy and, my privacy. Like, I can't film in the building at my work, and I don't really want to film the outside of the building. I am usually intentionally vague about exactly where I live because I would love to believe that none of you would knock on my door, but you never know which person would decide to do that. So there's definitely a lot of considerations when it comes to the vlogging for personal safety and privacy. And I am definitely starting to babble way too much. And looking at the time, I know I have a child who is getting ready to go to bed and will want more hugs and kisses. And I have a video to edit because this is later than I would normally do any of this. So I am going to shut myself up, especially since if I keep babbling now, none of you will want to hear anything from me every day in October. So that's all I have for tonight. Thank you very much for staying through kind of my babble on about my upcoming projects, my current projects, and until we speak again, have a very happy making.